Big opening, pass 5, pass 10, Burgos a man, and he goes all the way to the 15-yard line. 17 yards out the terror.
Welcome back to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by betonline.ag and Oak Ridge Wealth Management. I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always by Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how are we doing today?
Matt Perkins, every day on the podcast with you is a holiday. As I say every time, just excited to be here, excited to talk to Ryan. Everything about Badger football coming up in a couple weeks gets me juiced up.
Yeah, man, we are, as we were recording this, we are 9 days away from the opener, which is the perfect time for us to be talking air raid, or more specifically, dairy raid with Ryan Andersen, a guy who I am just in awe of. He's one of my favorite YouTube pages anywhere around the Badger football universe. Ryan, thanks so much for hanging out with us here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me slum it with you guys. You guys got Jonathan Taylor and James White, and now you're slumming it with me. But we got to give something for the nerds, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We value everyone the same on this podcast, except for the fullbacks, I guess. Yeah. We're done with them.
I'm a former fullback, so I just got to find new ways to use fullbacks. They're called H-backs now.
You know what? I think that is the exact right approach to have about this, Bernie. But before we get into our conversation with Ryan, we got to remind you guys that we continue to be presented by betonline.ag. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football, from the preseason NFL, college kickoff next week. Actually, week 0 even starts this week. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Head on over to the winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor Pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, unwind with over 150 slot games and more. Head on over to the website today to use the promo code BELIEVE to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. And, of course, our main man, Chris Anicetti, over at Oak Ridge Wealth Management. If you are a current or future professional athlete, you are a collegiate athlete with NIL deals, Chris Anicetti is the guy to get in touch with to get your money right. His team of professionals do one thing, and that is take care of athletes. He and his team will get a bespoke plan for you to make sure your money is right so you can focus on what you do best, and that is perform on the field. Get in touch with Chris at on Instagram at Oakbridge_Anicetti. That's Oakbridge_ANICETE, or head on over to the website at oakbridgewealthmgmt.com. Chris Anicetti and Oak Bridge Wealth Management. All right.
I love for 1 second, I love our sponsors. It is Chris Anicetti, by the way, who I think is a genius. Get your money right or gamble and bet on game. I think it's great.
But you know what? Here's what Chris
will give you a little bit of an allowance to bet on games.
Exactly. If you want to bet on games, not games you're playing in. If you are an athlete, do not bet on the games that you are playing in. That is a bad idea, and that's a way to get you banned from your sport that you love. But give yourself an allowance. Chris will tell you, you can have an allowance on things that you want to do, that you want to enjoy. Just, don't go over the top with it, because you can end up in debt. Don't want to be ending up in debt at all. So now we're going to switch back over from gambling to, well, I guess, maybe you learn a little something here, figure out if Badgers are going to go over under on with their offense this year. That's why we are here to talk with Ryan. But for those of you who don't know Ryan, Ryan runs the Dairy Raid. He has a Substack. He has a YouTube page, and his insights onto what is actually happening on a play-to-play basis in Phil Longo's offense are the best there is, bar none. So Ryan, I want to first, though, let people know a little bit more about you and your background. So how did you live in a place I used to live in, Denmark, and you are a football coach. How did you get to where you are today, man? Let's go back, like we ask everyone else. Let's go back to young Ryan, man. How do you get into football in general?
Yeah, it's I'll try to make the long story palatable for those with short attention spans. I'm Wisconsin born and raised, American born and raised, everything like that. Graduated in 2000, figured my football career was over, like 99.9% of people. Moved on to Wisconsin River Falls, was there for semester and a half, hated every second of it. And I was planning on taking a gap year, and I had an opportunity to go to Sweden for that gap year. And I was like, I got to find something to do while I'm there. And just by happenstance, the local TV affiliate was on in the background, and there was some minor league, arena league on the TV. And they had mentioned the quarterback had played in the Super Bowl of, I can't even remember what country, some country. And I'm like, I wonder if there's football in Sweden. So I looked it up and found that they played. I put a post on a forum and found a team that was looking for a running back coach. And, in high school, I was kind of, de facto running back coach. I was that guy that the starting fullback would talk to when you didn't want to ask the coach which footwork to use on this particular play because you didn't want to get in trouble with the OC. I was that guy. Probably why I didn't get to play very much because I was telling everybody above me how to do their job. But so, I was 19 when I started coaching and just kind of just looking for something to do. And I fell in love with it. And that just kind of started, what? I don't have to go home. And I just that started the bumming around trip around Europe. For me, I coached in Sweden, in Finland, Austria, Ireland. And that got me up to about 2008. Then I got the job in Denmark, and then I met my wife, and so I'm stuck here. And so I've been here since 2008, and kind of solidified myself in the community here, and just kind of building up my resume from there. And football over here is all self-taught, so it's a lot of work, and it's like doing everybody's job at the same time. A lot of times I'm the only coach on the staff, so I literally have to do everybody's job. But it's a lot of research on your own, and that's kind of where I came up. I found the air raid, and what drew me to it was its simplicity, and it's like the beautiful simplicity of it, because football can be needlessly complicated. And especially offensive football, terminology could be needlessly complicated. And what drew me was throw to the open guy. Is he open? Yes, throw it to him. What's the coverage? Don't care. Throw it to the guy who's open. Okay, got it. And that was something when in my situation where I have 4 hours a week of practice with players at most, I need something super simple, super easy for them to digest. Also, in most cases where it's not their native language, makes it easier. But it's one of those things that shows that you do not need to make football more complicated than it is, despite what coaches kind of want to do. It's hard sometimes for coaches to want to make the job easier, and that's what drew me to the air raid to begin with.
So, Ryan, I coached high school football for a long time, and we went from the triple option, like the veer and the midline, which I actually like, but I don't like at the same time, to the spread. So I'm a novice in this space, but so you're attracted to the simplicity. Let's talk about that, because I don't think. Listen, you look at Phil Longo on the sidelines and you're like, oh my God, he's miming in a book. But really, certain hand gestures talk to one person or one group, right? So break down the simplicity. Like, what's day one for you in the room?
I mean, for a good air raid coach can install the entire offense in 3 days. That's the goal. And I think Phil Longo has said something similar. They install it the first week, they reinstall it the second week, and they just kind of go from there. Day one, you're starting with quick game, your one-step drops, your quick 3 drops, basic inside zone. And, day 2, you're working intermediate, putting in outside zone, working on screens. Day 3, deeper shots, play action, RPOs, etc. And then you just rep it. And one thing that I like about it as well is you don't have to carry a lot of plays. What you can do is you can find ways to multiply the offense. Like, I have a set number of pass plays that I use, but I have a bunch of formation tags, little things to move one guy or the other without adding a ton of terminology. I mean, I'm hoping that I can give a complete passing or complete play in a color and a number, and that's it. 4 syllables, and I get everything I need. I don't need to have, why call it 300 jet for pass protection when you can just call it 5? That's just me. I want to keep it simple. And then Phil Longo can then translate whatever his terminology is into a series of hand gestures where, like, if you don't need a huddle, why use it? It's kind of little things like that where if it's not necessary, I mean, there's coaches, I got it from June Jones, where in the run and shoot era, like they wouldn't even call their formations. It's like, we only have one formation. If we're going to change it, we'll call it. If we're going to run trips, we'll call trips. If we don't call trips, we're going to be in twins. And they just keep it easy. And yeah.
Do you think that one of the reasons that this sort of offense has, perpetuated over the last 20, 30 years or so is the fact that players and coaches are more transient than ever? And so I would assume, or maybe I'm making too much of a leap of faith, but it makes sense that with more players coming in from the portal, more people transferring, et cetera, that it would be easier to get everyone on the same page this way than as to maybe a traditional, pro style offense.
Oh, for sure. Because who else, when Wisconsin was running the pro style, who ran the pro style still? Iowa.
Illinois.
It's there are way more kids growing up running the air raid in high school, running spread offense. And there's so many different variations. The spread offense is kind of a big, catch-all. But, I mean, that was one of the things when we're not going to be able to find the athletes in the Big Ten to play in the spread. It's like, well, everybody else in the conference does it except Iowa. And so, like, even Michigan, they run their pro style, but they're power spread. Ohio State is power spread. Penn State is the offense that I wanted Wisconsin to do 5 years ago because they have the offensive coordinator that I wanted in Andy Konecki. But it's where football is going. Football is evolving into more speed, playing in space, simplifying things that you can do more. You can have less moving parts and do more. And to play a pro style with pro style terminology and all the West Coast terminology, that takes time, dedication, and a different kind of effort that maybe some other coaches think, well, let's just simplify it and get better at a smaller category or a smaller group of plays. I mean, I had a year when I was coaching, and I took over a team that was West Coast, and they had 50 pages of pass plays. And I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. We're gonna simplify this down to 3, and we'll just have moving parts. And that's kind of what the spread is now. You don't have to carry 50 pages of pass plays. And like Phil Longo, 29 plays, I think he says he wants to run. That's a whole offense. And if you do it out of multiple formations, that's really all you really need.
Like, I've never been on Zoom before and I'm muted myself. I was going to sneeze and then I just didn't take it off. I love the simplicity because even from high school, it's the same exact thing. I was doing 60. I called it just because 6-man maximum protection with the running back. And it was just a play, hitch. And everyone ran a hitch, or the inside guys do verticals. It's very simple. Phil Longo's is a little bit more advanced than I would say high school. Does he have to consistently think in his head, like, I need to keep it, I don't say dumb it down, but do I need to keep it on a level that's not expert right this second? Like, how hard is that to do as a coach?
It can be hard. Air raid coaches in particular, and I would say more towards the Mike Leach end and the Hal Mummy end, they're the new school version of double wing coaches from back in the day. It's like, every situation, well, this play will work in every situation. Don't need to do anything different. And if you're too dumb to run it, you're just too dumb. Now, we're going to do the same thing over and over again. I think Phil Longo, his system he's more air raid adjacent. Like, he's not straight from the Mike Leach school. There's a lot of air raid concepts, but he has his own flavor introducing more of the RPOs and the power game to the offense, and working a little bit more like that, where the air raid is more about spreading things out, the Mike Leach style. I think there are basic concepts and basic ideas that I think he expected that, Division I football players should be able to run, and especially guys who've been there for 3-4 years. And I think that was the learning curve that he learned. Is like, wow, for as pro style as Wisconsin was, they were professional at one style of football, and they were very good at doing exactly what the page said on the paper, the play said on the paper, and without any kind of understanding of leverage and stuff like that. So that's what last year was. It was trying to reteach guys how to play football. And some of them bought in, some of them didn't. It didn't help that there was injuries, and we were on the third string tight end by the time we got to the first game. We were on to a third and fourth string running backs. The list goes on of excuses. Don't want to make them, but I think he's probably arrogant. We're all arrogant. It's like, I can teach this, because I think he truly thought he could install what he wanted to do day one and be ready to go for the season. And it just didn't happen.
We talk about like breaking bad habits. It's the same thing with the 3-3. You got guys who have been coached, and some have been there for 4 or 5 years. Most of the starters were long-term guys. It's so hard. Nobody believes this, but like, think about waking up. Like, you wake up and do the same things every day. You go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, whatever you do. Imagine trying to flip it or do something different. It's mind-boggling. It's very difficult. Imagine football, where it can be intense with all these different things. But you mentioned the learning curve. What do you think are some obstacles of the spread offense?
I think it's understanding space and understanding leverage and understanding where you need to occupy that space. How do I say it? It's simple in that way, but it can also be difficult, because when you're trying to get guys who are probably taught so much about coverage and so much about reading defenders based on coverage alignments and stuff like that, no, just run. And if you're capped at 10 yards, break downhill to the ball. And it's like, yeah, but I guarantee you there was tons of yeah, buts in the heads of the receivers last year. And that's hard. It's hard to take out of their system. When you're trying to teach a guy new things, or, a new guy into the system, you have to get them out of the thought where they're translating what they used to do into the new language in their head. Because, as football players, we're not smart enough to translate in our head and then do things at the same time. It's like, learn something. Remember what you did before. Keep that in your back pocket. But we need to learn something new. Don't try to, that was this from last year. I get that. But no, it's not. It's different. So I think that was an issue. I think we saw that, especially with the receivers, way overthinking things. I think that is a big reason why Skylar Bell dropped so many balls. He was thinking too much. And it just comes down to allowing yourself to just, run to the spot. And if you're capped, break downhill. And it really is that simple. But it's like, you got to get that but out of your head, or you're just going to be second guessing what you're doing. And it also didn't help that I think Tanner Mordecai was just not comfortable last year. And he would get to the top of his drop, and then we didn't see the all 22. We didn't see everybody. And I think his interpretation of leverage, because he learned from the air raid from other coaches. And so it's like, oh no, this is what I did at Oklahoma. This is what I did at SMU. Wait a minute, he's not there. So it's a recipe for disaster, and things could have gone a lot worse. And hopefully they've taken from that this offseason. It sounds like they have. They've really worked on that. I think Kenny Guyton's really going to help the receiver room get more in tune with what we're looking for. He comes from an air raid background when he was at Houston. AJ Blazik is going to help the offensive line. I know it. So hopefully everything's going to come together this year, at least a little bit better.
Well, I certainly hope so. Obviously, we're all hoping so.
Yeah,
But
of course.
My thing last year, I think I harped on this a lot, is that the timing is so important, right, in the air raid offense, and the time that it took to get the snap to the quarterback threw off everything. Even I think when you're practicing that, like in Skelly, and the coach is just tossing the ball to you, that comes faster than the ball was actually coming from the snap from the center. And I think that was one of the big reasons that they looked so much better in the bowl game, was because Renfro got the snap to him in 3 or 4 tenths of a second instead of 1.2 seconds.
I mean, it was one of my things. It was one of my.
One second.
Colin,
Hold
time
on.
out from the sideline.
I think I'm very interested to hear what Ryan said. I want to break it down for people at home, because we constantly say the snap, but there is it looks like it doesn't matter. But Ryan, break it down like I am, keep it really simple for stupid people like me. Like, it has a waterfall effect for the entire play, not just that 0.1 seconds. I'll let you tell us why that is, but I just want to break it down because we harp on this and it is a big deal. And I think people are just sitting there like, oh, here we go with Matt Perkins again to saying the snap.
Yeah, it is very important, because Longo's entire passing game, and like most offense, is built into the footwork of the QB. So when he gets to the top of his drop, read one should be open. And that is so when he, and if Tanner last year, high snap, low snap, reaching over his head, when he gets to the top of his drop, he's already behind schedule. And then receiver one is already covered. And so then even though, or he's not, or he, given time for the defense to recover, where he probably was open if he had a clean snap. And it builds from there. And people will say, well, why don't you just go under center? Well, that's not the offense. And I will flat out say, I don't know how we were a Division I football team that at least sometimes went in the shotgun in previous years under Paul Chryst and not have a center who could snap. I don't know where that failure came from. But
well, I think they were
they
were expecting Renfro to be the guy, and he was injured. And I think that
I'm just shocked that there wasn't another guy on the roster. But that it is what it is. But yeah, it all comes down to timing with the quarterback's footwork, and
also,
top
Ryan,
drop.
How about getting the ball and then finding the seams, or finding, people don't get it. Every time if you get a tossed a football, you automatically catch it, and then everyone finds the seam or finds the way to hold it. As a QB, if you're 0.2 seconds behind that, you might not find the seam. I mean, things are happening around you. All these things break down. So to break down from the beginning of the play is what Matt Perkins is always talking about, is that it doesn't look like it, but it's a slow snap, breaks down the quarterback's foot. Maybe he speeds up, so he's off. Maybe he's off balance because he's off. His hands are all wrong on the football. We've seen NFL guys throw footballs in crazy ways without laces. It's not everyone. Not everyone can do that.
No.
And you're right. The read could be that quick. And the second you miss the read, now you're trying to find the second guy, but you're already behind. So it throws off the entire play. And even in the run game, we see so many fumbles. You see so many misreads on zones and stuff we're talking about. And we'll get into that in a second. But I completely agree. I just like that we have somebody else who's a coach who can break it down for us. So, because it really matters. And you saw Renfro do it, and you saw a more relaxed QB. You also saw him have a little bit more time. Even if you have guys who are coming free at some point, it's not that quick. So it does, everything starts. I just want to, Matt Perkins always brings this up, and it's like, why? And I just want to go into the why.
Timing matters. And it doesn't matter what offense you're in. Timing matters. You could be running any offense, and could be in your standard 3-step, 5-step, 7-step drop under center in every offense. And if something screws up the timing, the whole play can go downhill. And it's so easy for us as armchair QBs to say, oh, why didn't he see that guy? Well, we've got a million reasons, and it all comes down to timing.
Right. Even when we see guys under center, if they fumble the snap or bop or juggle it a little bit, it throws off. Unless it's an A gap zone, everything else is pretty much a nightmare from that second. You should almost take a knee and just end the play. So that's why these things matters. I have a question, Ryan, about the run play option. I think that everyone says RPO. Can you dive into like what that actually means and what it looks like in a play? Because I understand it. I think a lot of people are like, oh, the RPO is amazing, but can't visualize literally what that means.
I RPO is becoming my new end around reverse that you hear so much from announcers and stuff like that, and I don't think they really know what it means. And an RPO is a run pass option. It is a run play with a pass route tag to it that you read a second or third level defender, and based on his movement, you either give the ball to the running back or you throw the ball to the receiver. That, at the essence, that's what an RPO is. You have the catch-all zone read, and you can do it on any blocking scheme, and that's your old school option. I mean, the zone read is triple option, just with slightly different moving parts. It's we block, we have a read defender. If he crashes the run, QB keeps it. If he keeps his contained, we hand it off. It means one less guy we have to block. And that's one of the things I like about the spread, and I like about the spread run game, is I don't have to block everybody. I spend more time influencing defenders so I don't have to block them than worrying about who I have to block. And that's what I like about that. And then you can build onto there. There are package plays where you can have, a set pass concept on one side, a set pass concept on the other side, and then the QB can keep it on a draw. Or you can have two separate pass concepts, and he's like, all right, I like this side, I like that side, I pick one side and I go. There's lots of different, it kind of all fits into the category called package plays. And you can just package them however you want. And you can build in answers into your plays where we're always looking to put defenses in conflicts of assignment, where no matter what they do, it's wrong. And that's what we're trying to do. And the easiest way to stop that is literally what teams did to us last year. Man-to-man, and put everybody else in the box and out-athlete us. And if we can get defenses out of that, then we could have more success. Luckily, we play teams where defensive coaches sometimes are too arrogant to just be like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to run our same old save and match coverage, and we're going to run everything the same. And so we're not going to play man, we can play zone, and we'll tear you apart because I'll put those outside linebackers in conflict all game. So that's the name of the game, conflict of assignment.
So I love that you brought that up because that's on my list to talk to you about. When I was coaching, we would always have I love cover 4. I don't know what it's called. It's a read between the safety and the corner. I don't know what it's called in this day and age. We would have cover 4 killers, right? You had an out and up and a post. Blew our guys' minds, and you would have to practice that over and over and over again. Are there, like you just mentioned, man to man? So you must practice. I wouldn't say it's maybe it's air raid killers. Like, what are some of those? It's just that, or that's just the Badgers issue. Like, what do you see? And you're like, man, this is going to be a tough time to go against.
I mean, the air raid has man to man coverage beaters. They have cover 2 beaters. They have cover 4 beaters. And it just comes down to, I think the problem we had is we had receivers that weren't that great running routes last year. And then because they weren't giving enough of a threat to the entire field that it forced the defense into a different structure. If defenses were worried about getting beat over the top, and we saw it with LSU, they were worried about getting beat over the top, so they kept a too high shell. And then they were either cover 2 palms, which is match cover 2, or cover 4. And then we were able to start picking them apart a little bit, and because they were threatened by the vertical. And the air raid is about creating a horizontal and a vertical stretch at the same time. So defenses can adjust coverage, but there should be a match to that. But it's getting defenses to play a shell, and then we just find the holes in the shell, and that's what we're looking for. And if we can't do that, and we're forced to play if the defense is allowed to play man to man the whole time, then we just have to play big boy football and win battles. And that's something we didn't do. Receivers, I harped a lot on Chimray last year and CJ Williams. They just could not get off of press coverage. And well, what can you do? I mean, and I don't know what the coaching point is other than stop doing it. I know Coach Brown, I'm sure, was harping on them every practice to get better at that stuff, but they couldn't. And that really hindered it. It also didn't help that Tanner didn't want to press the ball downfield, but that's another story.
Tyler Van Dyke has a bigger arm. Like, let's just face it, he has a bigger arm, and it's us now. Here's a big assumption that they have better pass pro this year. I think that it's hard to get a lot worse than it was. I mean, we've seen bad pass pro for the last couple of years out of Wisconsin, but last year, Jack Nelson struggled and he was put on an island. He just looked heavy and slow. I was honestly a little surprised that he decided to come back for one more year. I thought it was for sure he was either going to hit the portal or try to go pro or something like that, but he's come back. AJ Blazek obviously brings a very different energy. So with that, do you think the Badgers will have the ability to drive the ball downfield more this season?
I think so, because I think for better or for worse, Tyler Van Dyke is more decisive when it comes to throwing the ball downfield. I just saw it a lot with Tanner last year. He'd get to the top of his drop and then he'd get happy feet. And that could either be the receivers or it could be him not trusting his arm. Again, we didn't see every angle of it. Tyler's going to throw it. For better or for worse, he's going to throw it. I think he trusts his arm downfield more. It sounds like he's building a rapport with those outside receivers, which is good to hear. And it's going to help that we got Tretch and Will Pauling to then, when you have guys like that on the inside, you will force coverage because you can't play, you got man killers inside there. It's going to change coverage. It's going to open up more opportunities to go downfield. And when you have a quarterback who's more decisive about going downfield, it's a win-win. He's going to throw some what the hell was that throws, for sure. But I would rather have that than get to the top of the drop and get antsy and run. I see it every day. My quarterback does it now. It drives me crazy. And I'd rather have him just try. Because sometimes it's like, well, what else was I going to do? That's something I saw a lot with Graham Mertz is, he threw balls into stupid situations because they sent 3 guys into the route. They've dropped 6 into coverage. What else is he going to do? And which is why the air raid has stuff like checkdowns, which we can get into later. So sometimes, you don't give them enough options. Sometimes you got to force it. And we hear in all camp that Tyler can throw it into tighter windows. He can play later because he trusts his arm going into those windows. So that's what I like hearing. I'm hearing a lot more about his skill set than I heard about Tanner's ups and downs. Where he'd have a great day and then not the best day for Tanner Mordecai. We've been hearing a lot more. Did you see that throw? And that makes me more confident. I mean, I last year has taught me to be a lot more guarded with my enthusiasm. But
I think it's that for a lot of us.
Yeah, and I was right there with it. But this camp has sounded a lot more like, okay, a little more relaxed. Yeah, both sides are making plays, but man, did you see so-and-so make a play? I like that.
But look, if you watch any NFL game ever, that's what they ask the wide receivers to do is win one-on-one matchups. Deep threats, back shoulder, they're jumping over dudes. That's what they're just asked to do. You don't have to be open to catch a ball. And I think Tanner didn't give our guys the option to even catch the ball because he didn't throw it down there. So when you're a defensive guy, as a coach, you go over all the statistics, how many deep balls, there's percentages for everything. If you have 5% deep balls, you're not going to play deep. You're just not. And then when those 5% are, it's broken down even more into 3rd and 15s, deep ball. So now you can, as a defensive coach, you can really harp on what the offense is doing. With a guy like Tyler, on first down, he might just throw a deep ball because he wants to.
Yep.
And I think there is positivity. People will say, what the heck is he doing? But on the backside, you're like, man, now in the back of the head, the first play of the game or whatever play, the coach is saying they could always do that. He could always throw it down the field, and we need to be prepared for that. And then Will Pauling and Tretch, who I think got open, he figured it out. He was open on every time he rolled out, and he had some trouble, Tanner, in getting out of the pocket. That dude found space. So I think that is the bogey. That was the biggest takeaway, is that we got these dudes who are amazing. If we can make some plays downfield, I think it opens up, and we say this all the time, it opens up everything. Run play option, the run plays, it opens just everything. And you can't sit man-to-man if we're throwing the ball up and CJ Williams is catching it all the time. Even if you go 50% to 20%, you got to start playing defense.
Even get a pass interference call.
Anything. A pass interference call to me is a catch. Like it's great. It's let's move the sticks.
It's all about playing the numbers. It's not it's playing the odds. It's making the defense play the entire field. Playing the full width, playing farther downfield, and everything builds into the defensive structure. And the more you threaten, the more you're like, am I confident in that corner? Okay, yeah, we can play man to man when the quarterback's only going to throw the ball 15 yards. But what about a quarterback who's going to chuck it up for 40? That changes the defensive structure. And having a quarterback like Tyler this year really pushing the ball downfield is going to help. For better or for worse at times, he's going to make mistakes. Every quarterback is. But, I mean, honestly, and this kind of shows our history with quarterbacks at Wisconsin, if he comes out and has a 19-12 season, that's about an average Wisconsin season. I mean, it doesn't get much more Wisconsin than that. Anything above that is, okay, we're in the right direction. And, I mean, and we could say if we had an average Wisconsin passing game last year, we win a couple extra games. And so that's what we can see at worst. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I mean, I think with everything Tyler's gone through, and he's going to leave it all in the field. So he's going to, I guarantee his last game, he's going to look a lot like Tanner did, sitting on the sideline after that last, the Raleigh Quest Bowl, just kind of in shambles, and because he's going to leave it all in the field.
And we love that as Badgers. But Ryan, when you say breakdown, I just wanted to explain the breakdown the defensive structure. Think about what we used to do when I was there. You would line up with a tight end on the right, a fullback, and you'd run power. The defensive structure never changed. These dudes lined up, they saw it, they knew exactly what to do. Now, we had guys who might have been better, stronger, faster to get through holes but the structure never changed. Then we had power pass often. You don't really change much structure either because it's all man-to-man. What I think Phil Longo's doing is putting people on islands, making people confused. It's all changing the mindset. So guys are in a place, and you could run zone 30 times in a row, and it looks different 30 times in a row. And that is what is great about the run pass option and the Phil Longo. I'm obsessed. That's my second favorite play is zone. Because you have let's say there's a zone left, you have the bubble on the right, and the quarterback has the option to run. I really don't like quarterbacks running. It's not my jam. But that's because I grew up, with Sorgi and Stocco. But Bollinger could do it.
Yeah.
So
and they ran a little speed option with him.
They did. You just never really want to see the quarterback take any type of hit. Like, I don't know, not even a pinky finger. Right. I have to ask you, what's your favorite play?
My favorite play. Oh, I got a lot.
Asking for his favorite child.
Yeah, no.
What's your favorite run play?
Because it's always a situation. It's a situation.
Favorite run play is easy. Outside zone. I love outside zone. I think
what is that power read? What is it? It's just
it's just stretch blocking scheme. And I like to run it out of the sidecar alignment, the running back next to the quarterback, and it's all about your work. The offensive line is working to get outside shoulder on a defender, and if I tell my guys, if he outruns you, that's fine. Wall him off. Running back reads it, and we turn it into a vertical type of run. You go back and look at old highlights of DeAnthony Thomas when he was at Oregon. He was a master at the shotgun outside zone, because it's one of those run plays where it's kind of a misnomer. Even in the title, you're outside zone. It's like, oh, I'm running outside. It's like the blocking is set up outside, but we're looking to create walls. It's almost like the way I could tell my linemen. It's almost like we have five guys pulling.
Yeah,
it's like the wing tee buck sweep on steroids, and it's the same concept. You're creating alleys, and you want to get a vertical cut behind it. And if
Imagine
you get
having
more,
Joe Thomas get out there. Like, you're outside almost every time now.
yeah. And
But-
if you get guys who can move, it's really hard to stop because again, you're taking those interior guys, the box that you played against where you had 7-8 guys between the tackles, and now you're forcing them to play sideline to sideline because you have the option to bang it all the way out to the sideline, or you can cut it right off the center's butt. And when you're doing that too, you got the receiver spread out, so it's going to be a lighter box anyways. So, and there's so much you can build off it. I mean, there's great RPOs that you can run off of outside zone. There's screens you can run off of it. It's again another one of those beautifully simple kind of run plays where you kind of let the defense let you know how you're going to beat them with it.
And during these RPOs that you can literally not block the nose guard, the tackle, the three tech. I mean, it's outrageous the amount of people you don't like per play, not at the same time. That would be a nightmare.
Yep.
But what I love about the spread run game is that it doesn't need to be pretty. You don't need a down block to work. You just need the back to read it and guys to just keep working throughout the progression of the play. Like you're saying, you want to get that outside shoulder, but if you don't, wall them off and the back will read it. And it's
exactly,
dude. And so like 2-3 yards is not so bad all the time, but some of these plays break because guys are overflowing and they're not doing their reads. I mean, that's what I love is the defensive guys flow so hard that there's so many cutback lanes. And if you have a good Ches Malusi, you got a good back who can read it. There are lanes everywhere. Anthony Davis was like the perfect dude. He could run the power, and then when you put him back there in the spread, he could see every hole. It was unbelievable to watch and sit in the film room with that guy. So that's exciting for me, is that literally there's a hole everywhere.
Oh yeah, and that's why 95% of my run game is inside zone, outside zone. Mm-hmm. And that scheme wise, I have a couple variations in the backfield action, but it's just footwork. Tell the lineman, trust your footwork. Go through your footwork. The footwork will take you to the people you need to block. Block them when you get there, and the running back, do your reads. Do your read 1 to 2, and get vertical. And as soon as you do that, we're good.
My question off of that, though, is I think one of my frustrations last year was 3rd and short, 4th and short. I felt like they couldn't get a yard if their life depended on it. So what can you do from an air raid system in those short yardage situations? I mean, obviously, yes, you can pass, but like if you decide like that, you do need to run. What can you do schematically and personnel wise to give you the upper hand in those situations?
I mean, first you got to match. You got to try. If the defense is going to try to put extra players in the box, you got to be able to match personnel. Using a read helps because that means you have one less guy you have to worry about. You add the H back in, or you add a motion guide and add an extra body. But it still comes down to the same thing that every other football is. You got to win. You got to win inside. And I thought, last year, I thought our weakest link on the offensive line was at guard, and that didn't help. It also didn't help that when we got in short yardage situations, it was almost like a flashback. Everyone knew exactly where the ball was going. And we had backs that, despite being big backs, were maybe not the best at running in short yardage situations. Also didn't help that those backs were never seemed to be healthy. I think I could count on 2 hands how many quarters Braylon was completely healthy all last season. And there's a lot of, again, it sounds like I'm making excuses, but it's schematically, you force the defense that yes, it is third and 1, but you still have to respect the entire field. And then you just got to win battles. And you got to run downhill. And it's not, and I'll say this because I know you had mentioned it before we were talking offline. It doesn't hit any slower to run a run play from shotgun, because it just doesn't, because you put a tailback at 7 yards in the I formation, the ball still has to get from the center to the tailback. He still has footwork that he has to go through, blockers that have to navigate their scheme. So that doesn't change. When you're in the shotgun, the running back is at 6.5, 7 yards, same thing. The ball's getting to him about the same because the quarterback doesn't have to go anywhere. The ball's just, gets from the center to him. So it all kind of evens out, and yeah, just win the battle. And
I think what's hard for us is that we expect 22 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 backs, and power or zone or something downhill that could get 1 yard. I mean, like, what did they say? 1 yard in a cloud of dust, although there's no more dust on these fields anymore. I think we have to break our mindset. Our behavior and our expectation is we could see a pass on 3rd and 1. It's no different than getting stopped on a run play, 3rd and 1. We can see a quick pass, and we just have to be okay with that can happen.
yeah, it's that. But then you can still run downhill, or you can still run power. I mean, the power you run from gun is the same. You got an H back. He's your fullback. You can go 2 back. Part of it too is, I mean, did we have those guys?
No,
maybe
we didn't have 2 tight ends. I don't think.
Yeah, we didn't have the tight. I mean, we had Hayden Rucci, who was one good blocking tight end, and again, he was your 3rd string tight end leaving spring last year. And then you had a freshman who struggled with blocking, which is why he didn't get on the field so much. Right. And then, they ran 12 personnel, they ran 13 personnel, and I think they struggled more when they tried to go back to what we used to do. Anytime they ran under center, they just went straight downhill for it.
Well, I'm not sure if Tanner Mordecai had ever taken a snap under center since he was in middle school.
Oh, I doubt he did. That's why I was so curious to watch him play for the 49ers. It's like, let's see what he's learned. He actually looked pretty good doing it.
Yeah, he didn't look bad. I want to get into, though, with the about 10 to 15 minutes left, I want to keep going here because I want to talk actually about some personnel this year. Which, of, I would say, either new starter or new contributor are you most excited about this year and why?
I'll say the same thing everyone else is. Tawee
Walker, yeah.
I love him. I've said it from the second I watch him. He never goes down with the first hit. He always falls forward. And that's something we haven't had for a while. And he can play in space, and he is a system fit. I'm tempering my excitement for the young running backs because we have 6 running backs, and I'm excited to see them play. I hope they don't have to. That would be what I say there.
I like Walker because he's decisive. That to me is something that we did not see last year. Tommy Walker, even if he makes the wrong cut, he's going to make it at 100% every single time and just go. And I think that's what you saw out of, especially Michael Carter a couple of years back at North Carolina, a guy who's just like not as necessarily physically gifted, but he's just going to put his foot in the ground. He's going to go uphill and he's going to say, come get some.
Yeah. And it has to be in a zone-based run scheme. You have to be decisive. Your foot has to go on the ground, and then you need to get vertical. You can't pitter patter in the gap, and that's for any running back, but especially in a system like the spread where you're trying to gain an advantage. You don't want to give them time to catch back up. So I think he's a great fit. I mean, he comes from an air raid background, playing at Oklahoma up until last year. They didn't play air raid last year, but so he's a system fit, and he's a great combo with Ches.
So Ryan, I want to get into something that this is my pill to box to stand on or whatever. Let me think about how to phrase this. I have it written down just as a quick thing. Ryan, when you see you're going up against a team, or have you ever seen that you went up against a team? Do they run the 3-3, and does that excite you, or are you like, oh man, what are we going to do?
3-3 is annoying. I run 3-3 myself sometimes. I think, every front has run schemes that can take advantage of it. 3-3, if you run more power, counter, downhill, gap scheme, it can cause problems, especially if you don't have the interior linemen that can occupy double teams that can push back the pulls. So that can be an issue. But then you get into, the 2-4, you got issues where you're having, more speed on the field, but you have less size. So It comes down to just what fits your personnel best and how you can coach it. I think you saw they didn't run a lot of 3-3 last year. I think it was part of their marrying what Wisconsin was known for with what they wanted to do. But that's also a thing that Luke Fickell did at Cincinnati. He came in his first year. He ran what he ran at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. They found out it didn't work. And they made changes based on who they played against. So I guarantee this year's defense is going to be adjusted based on who they're going to play against better. But more importantly, now they have the pieces that are in place that can make their brand of defense play better.
Looking at you, Jaheim Thomas.
Yeah. There's a big reason why they got 5 transfer linebackers. It's no more
Midwest linebackers.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the linebackers this year. Finally, some speed. It's amazing how much better defense could be when you have speed, and we used to have it. I mean, the defense has been good when you have NFL linebackers and NFL edge rushers and NFL interior linemen. Makes the defense better. We didn't have any of those guys last year. Now we have better athletes that can be coached up.
Well, one athlete that they're going to be down, unfortunately, is James Thompson, who
I just saw that.
Yeah, it sounds like he has torn his pec clean off the bone and will be out for the season. That's going to hurt the defensive line because he was far and away their best returning defensive lineman. I know we're here to talk offense, but I have to ask you, how much does that hurt this team right now?
It hurts because that's the vet that they could trust. They had multiple roles for him. And now, again, they have guys that are talented, but now that we're maybe going to be more situational guys, now their roles are going to expand. Brandon Lane, I'm excited to see him. I think he's a good fit for the 3-3. Elijah Hills, who knows? We'll have to see. But yeah, when you lose that anchor, you've got 2 options. You can get super conservative and just be like, no, all right, we're gonna pair things, kind of like what we used to do when a receiver would get hurt. It's like, instead of putting in the backup receiver, nope, let's go 3 tight ends and let's just run power all day. We'll see what they do. It's like, all right, are they gonna scheme around it, or are they gonna put a young guy in, or maybe a guy who's gifted talent-wise, but maybe isn't quite there mentally, is going to make mistakes, but could make big plays. That will be very interesting for sure.
I think you got to run the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, you put some guy you trust the most out of your group and say, hey, listen, dude, I know that you're new to this and this is, going to be a tough year, but as long as you give me 100%, I'm at least happy with it.
It sounds like they sound like they want to go more multiple this year, use a lot more different personnel packages. So while some of their base looks are going to be hurt, they'll find a way. They're good coaches.
Yeah, for sure. The coaches are great. I'm excited to see it as well. I think we do a little more, maybe evolving into using morphing like the dudes we have with our scheme and bringing that together. I thought last year we had our scheme, we had guys that were there, and we did not somehow bring them together as a good fit for a lot of different things. I mean, the run game, the run stopping was a nightmare for us last year. We have terrible teams running the ball on us. So there's that. I think getting into space on the offense, it's just new concepts that you just have to be open to. And I think there was a lot of turmoil where guys might not still have been open to the changes. But I think this year's a whole new year. Guys have been in the system. You've gone through the workouts with Brady Collins for 2 years almost. You got 2 springs. You had a season. That's a lot of football. So I'm excited for what this is. Now, Ryan, the Big Ten has become massive and scarier. Are you excited for that? Are you like, oh, man, USC, Oregon, what are we going to do this year? We got Penn State at home. I mean, this is no joke anymore. There are no easy games.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way football's changing. in the way that was going to change regardless of who the coaches were. It's just how football is. It's the consolidation of the talent, so to speak, and we're becoming the National College Football League. It's going to be interesting. A lot of those West Coast teams play some fun schemes. You get to see different things. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen enough Purdue and Indiana and Northwestern every single year. You're seeing the same things over and over and over again. It is nice to maybe switch it up a little bit. And, since we never quite got into the habit of playing, expanding what we're doing in the non-conference, like now you're going to play these teams. And who knows, by the time we actually get to the Virginia Tech game, Virginia Tech might actually be in the Big Ten. So it's gonna change things up. I mean, but it's the way football's going. It's becoming a national sport. It's no longer the Big Ten it hasn't been just your Midwest centric league for a long time because the talent has been coming from all over. And now we're going to be doing it on the national stage instead of the regional stage. So it's going to be exciting. And, and that's where we could go 7-6 this year and still consider it a victory because we playing against better teams in a new league. Mm-hmm. And now obviously we still want to grow, but it's the way football's going.
It's not the only way, but it's a good way for Big Ten teams to make the playoffs, multiple Big Ten teams to make the playoffs and to compete for a championship. Most of the time you had either Michigan or Ohio State and then 3 teams that used to whoop them. Outside of Michigan last year, maybe Ohio State a couple years ago, we were getting killed playing in these against the SEC and other places. And I hate to say it because I think we could match up well against the SEC, our type of football. But we weren't winning. So now you're playing against a lot better opponents to possibly play. Now you can go to recruit dudes and say, you're going to play these teams to play for the national championship. Like every year we're in that place to play for the national championship. I can't say last year or the years before we were because we always said we're in the place to win the West, to go to the Big Ten championship, to play a behemoth of whatever the other side was. So you're like, now, to me, we're playing these teams. You got to step up or else. And I think what the vision was, the coaching staff, the people we have now, what we're doing in the portal, but also what we're doing in recruiting, is to play in this league. And that is what excites me. Yes, we can be 7-6. And I think on the podcast, we'd all be like, hey, guys, we're going to swallow that. But we did well. Like, we're good with that.
Yeah.
But you're going to see, I think, 9-4, and then you're going to see 10-3, and you're going to see that's the progression I think we'll see as Badgers. You just gotta hold out hope that we're doing the right things now. Like look at Barry, he didn't do it overnight. It took him a couple years. It took him 4 or 3 to win the Rose Bowl, and that was a league that was way different. So we just got to be calm and take a breath.
Yeah,
although I will still scream at the TV.
Oh, sorry.
Every Saturday.
Yeah, I mean the Big Ten's changed where we can't rely on. All right, we're gonna get 4 or 5 wins out of Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, and then we got to find 2 wins against Minnesota, Michigan State. And we know we're going to lose to Penn State. We know we're going to lose to Michigan. We know we're going to lose to Ohio State. You can't do that anymore. The Big Ten's change. And so you have to adapt to it and become a national program. And if we can do that, Wisconsin is a special place. And we all know it. And if we can get the football culture along with the Wisconsin culture, Wisconsin could turn into one of these national stages where players want to come to.
We're the underdog. I love it.
Well,
it's great.
I love it too. Ryan, we know you got to run to practice, Coach, here. So
no worries.
Sorry, Coach.
We cannot thank you enough for taking the time to hang out with us here today. And we're going to have you back a couple weeks into the season to talk about the new stuff you've seen on the field from Longo's system. I could have talked for hours today just about like offensive line play in my disgust with it from last season, what they need to improve on. But you know what? That's what's great about this. We'll just have you back again soon, man. Ryan, how can people, get in touch with you and check out your work?
Yep, the Dairy Raid on YouTube. You can find it on Substack. Use the Google machine. Put in Dairy Raid, you'll find me. You can find me on Twitter. Same place as everybody else. I occupy the niche within the niche that is Wisconsin football. So you'll find me.
Listen, man, I'm here for a Big Ten. So you teach me something every single time I watch one of your videos. So I think it's a really awesome resource for Badger fans who really want to learn more about what they're seeing on the field. So make sure to check out Ryan's work everywhere. We appreciate everyone tuning in here to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by betonline.ag and Oak Bridge Wealth Management. And until next time, on Wisconsin.
An easy hand symbol to understand.